Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I must admit, I'm not feeling 100%. There's some flu stuff going around at the moment, but I've just gone and made myself a Lemsip. Well, the Asda version of it anyway, and it seems to be working quite well. So we're gonna start with a quick run through of all the kit that I used on my trip down to Turkey and back. Now this is not going to be a kind of a deep dive into the technical specs of this kit because most of you are probably not interested in that, but I'll run through what kit I used, why I used it, why I took it with me, what worked and what didn't work really, and if I would do anything differently next time. So the first piece of kit that we're going to look at is the Fujifilm XT3. Now, I took this camera with me because I wanted a camera that could do both filmmaking, videography, and stills photography really well. Some things really worked well with it, and some things really didn't work at all. So the things that worked really well was that, number one, it's an amazing stills camera. So the images I got out of this camera from the trip down and the trip back were just phenomenal, absolutely amazing. 26 megapixel sensor, so there's loads of detail, loads of dynamic range, all this stuff. It was brilliant. And as a film camera, it's also completely awesome. On paper, it films in 4K, 10-bit, all that stuff. I know that means nothing to most of you, and it doesn't really mean anything to me either, but it means that the quality of the images and video that you get out of this camera is second to none. It really is quite special. But in practice, when I wanted to use this camera to do some videography stuff, and I wanted to kind of handhold it and, you know, film myself, it was basically impossible. Number one, because the Fujifilm X-T3 doesn't have a flip out screen. So you can't turn the screen around and look at yourself. So you don't know what you look like. You don't even know if you're in the frame properly or if the thing's focusing on you correctly. So that became completely useless for that. Also, the X-T3 does not have inbuilt image stabilization. So when you're holding it, it's kind of shaking around like crazy. It really isn't usable footage. So the Fujifilm, the X-T3 that I took with me, it was only usable if I put it on a tripod or put it on something that stayed completely stable. Now, I used it quite a bit for kind of talking head stuff. So when I stopped at a hotel and I wanted to kind of update on stuff that was going on, that was with the Fuji X-T3 most of the time. And that was brilliant because I kind of set it up. I had to go and check that I was in frame and everything was done properly. But the X-T3 wasn't that usable for a lot of the stuff that I thought I was going to use it for on the trip. And just to round off the bit about the X-T3, the lens that I used on the camera was the Viltrox 23mm 1.4. It's a fixed focal length lens, otherwise known as a prime lens. And I had a variable neutral density filter on the front of it, so I could change the amount of light that was hitting the sensor. So that kind of ties it off for the Fuji X-T3. The next bit of kit was probably the bit of kit that I used the most of all the kit that I took with me, and that is the GoPro 10. Absolutely brilliant piece of kit, and the trip really wouldn't have had much filmed if it wasn't for that camera. I shot it in 4K most of the time. It's capable of shooting in 4K. A lot of guys shoot it in 1080p, which I understand because the battery life lasts a lot longer when you shoot in 1080p. But on the way down at least, I had my GoPro connected to my my power source the whole time so that it never drained the battery. And that is just a brilliant piece of kit. So many positive things I can say about the GoPro. It's rugged, it stabilizes, it's a digital stabilization in it, but it's really amazing so that you can ride your bike over bumps and it's not kind of jittery. It's a nice smooth image. And I really can't say much bad about the GoPro at all, apart from the fact that it does have a tendency to freeze sometimes, and you can't just turn it off and turn it on. You've got to pull the battery out of it, which is a real pain at times. And you GoPro owners, you may have experienced that as well. One of the things I did have was the medium mod. So you put the GoPro inside this little cage thing and it upgrades the microphone in it if you're using the internal microphone. But the best thing about it is that it provides you with some ports at the back. One of them is a port for the USB-C, which means you can just have it connected all the time to a power supply. The other port, which is the most important one, is the one where you can plug a microphone into it. So I had a lavalier microphone plugged into it all the time. That went into the helmet, and I was able to talk while I was riding, particularly on the way back, because I had it helmet mounted on the way back. On the way down, it was handlebar mounted. Now, there's a few things I need to figure out about that, and reaching out to the kind of the YouTube community as well, that I never quite managed. At higher speeds, the mic was really noisy and poppy.
Just me on the motorway. Can you see in the mirror there? There's not much going on behind me.
And all kinds of things, so it made some of the voiceover stuff completely useless. At slower speeds, it was completely fine, but as soon as it got a little bit kind of faster, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, it started to kind of pop and fizz a little bit. Even though I had the lavalier mic into the kind of the foam of my helmet. But other than that, the GoPro is an absolutely fantastic piece of kit, and the filming of this whole ride down and back wouldn't have happened without the GoPro. So highly recommended. GoPro 10, I think. The GoPro 9, 10, 11, I think they've come out with the 12, but I've got the 10 and it works just fine. And I didn't spend loads of money on it either, so that was a good one. GoPro 10. Perfect. Next on the kit list is the piece of gear that I use the least. Now, I thought I was going to use it loads, but due to me crashing my drone before I left and that causing some calibration issues, it just meant that it was fairly unusable. I did use it a couple of times, but it tended to have a bit of a mind of its own, and did some crazy things, particularly when I was in Bosnia and nearly lost it down into a waterfall. Other than that, it stayed pretty much in the kit bag and didn't come out. But it is a brilliant piece of kit. And when I got it calibrated by a guy that I met on a boat trip in Turkey, it worked just fine, and I used it a little bit on the way back, but really not very much. So this is the DJI Mavic Mini, the first iteration of this drone. So I got it dead cheap. I got it with the Fly More combo, so it's got extra batteries and stuff like that. If you're going to do a little bit of drone stuff, don't go splashing loads of money on a drone. This DJI Mavic Mini 1, it shoots in 2.7K or something like that. So it's not 4K, but it shoots in 2.7K. The image quality is absolutely brilliant. It doesn't have all these follow me functions so that you can put it up in the air and it will follow you as you ride down the road. Maybe I will upgrade to something like that at some point, but the way I thought I would use a drone and the way I actually used it were, you know, it didn't really make sense to have it with me when all was said and done, if I'm honest. But I'm glad I took it with me. I think probably I would take it again on the next trip, and probably think about how I want to use it rather than just have it there and then think, oh, I wouldn't mind flying the drone now, and then you don't really have anything to film with it, kind of thing. So don't spend loads of money on a drone, because you probably won't use it half as much as you think. So the DJI Mavic Mini, you could pick it up for a couple of £100, I think, used on the used market. Great bit of kit, didn't use it much. Not sure. You make up your own mind with that one. This is the final bit of kit that I had with me on the way down to Turkey. And I must say that this bit of kit is by far the best bit of kit that I took on the trip. It is the Osmo Pocket 1. Now, the Osmo Pocket 3 has just come out, and I will hold that up here because I was so into the Osmo Pocket 1 that this is the one bit of kit that I thought I must have this in the future. So I went for the latest and greatest. I don't normally do that with kit. I normally get stuff that's a little bit older. It was the piece of kit I used for all the kind of talking head stuff as I was walking around.
I'm at yet another border crossing, this time from Montenegro into Albania.
Time for that Greek breakfast though. I need this coffee right now. This is good. I'm gonna get another one. As you can see with the Osmo Pocket 1, it's tiny. And the thing that's amazing about these Osmo Pockets is the fact that they're stabilized. So you'll see as I'm moving you're moving it around like that, that it is physically stabilized. It's not a digital stabilization, it's actually a mini gimbal. So you get this incredible, you just get this incredibly mobile piece of filming kit that films in 4K, completely stabilized all the time. The audio in it is actually really good, so you don't need external mics, although you can attach external mics to them if you want to. But the quality of the image and how practical this thing is, that's the main thing, is that they're just such practical pieces of equipment to have with you and take up no space whatsoever. The battery lasts for ages. Again, I just charged it straight from the USB port on my motorcycle. And it was just with me all the time. So this one I actually picked up just about maybe 3 or 4 weeks before I left on the trip. So I thought, oh, I'd love to have one of those. And my friend said, oh, I've got one, you can borrow it. And I was like, do you know what? I'll buy one, because the Osmo Pocket 1 had been on the market for quite some time, and I picked it up for £150. So £150 for a 4K gimbal stabilized video camera is just no money. So if you're going to get one piece of kit, get yourself an Osmo Pocket 1, 2 or 3, depending on what you can afford. Can I say anything more positive about the Osmo Pocket? No, I probably can't. It's the best. Just get one. So there is one more piece of kit that I had with me on the way back from Turkey, and that is the Insta360 X3. An amazing bit of kit that I'm not sure if I like yet. So I'm going to do a bit of a separate review on that at some point when I've tried it out a bit more. It had its uses. It was really good at certain things, really bad at other things, but it needs a little bit more time before I can decide how I feel about it. The jury's out. So keep your eyes peeled for that review. It's coming at some point. So if you're the kind of person that really wants to film stuff on a motorcycle trip, but you don't want to take loads of stuff with you, you can actually get away with just 2 pieces of kit. And that is 1, the GoPro, and number 2, the DJI or something like that. Essentially, you could just take the GoPro and use that for everything. So you take it off the handlebars or take it off the helmet, and when you want to film yourself and go around with it, you could get away with just that 1 bit of kit. But for convenience, if you want to take 2 bits of kit, it would be the GoPro and the DJI. Now, essentially, you could swap the DJI out with any half-decent smartphone, and that would also do the job. So it is actually possible to pack really, really, really light with your camera equipment. You don't need everything like I had with me at all. And in fact, I could have done it with loads less than I had with me, but I took it with me anyway. I don't know why. So guys, thanks for joining me again for yet another episode. There will be more gear stuff that I will be talking about, and there's a few more bits and bobs that I would like to talk about that I had with me on the trip, but that's it for the bulk of it. Next weekend, I'm going away for a bit of a 4x4 weekend with some friends, and I'm taking the wingman of the road with me. So I will be reviewing it in what looks to be some pretty harsh Welsh weather. So looking forward to that. And looking forward to giving my thoughts on the wingman of the road, both used in blisteringly hot sunshine and in the nasty kind of weather that we can get in the Welsh mountains every once in a while. So look forward to seeing you then. Take care, stay upright.